LVH, TPN, spinal taps, PDA, echo, ventricular hemorrhage.
Hey guys, welcome back to NICU Life. I'm Dr. Gibson Gray, and today we're going to do something a little different. Today we're going to try to demystify some of the most common and potentially scary elements of having a baby in the NICU. This video is not going to be like others that we've done or will do because we're not going to talk about one specific medical problem, but rather I hope to uncover and explain some of the many common things that you might see when walking into a NICU for the first time. Regardless of when your first time in the NICU was or maybe will be, hopefully we can help explain some of these things that often go unmentioned by the staff and providers because, to be honest, they're everyday items to us. Let's get started. All right, welcome to the bedside. First, we're going to start going over some of the things we might see when we first walk into the NICU. So I'll start with this big thing right here. This is the bed that the baby would go on. This is either called a radiant warmer, or specifically the brand name of this one is a giraffe because it has a long neck that comes up. Other ones you might see might be a panda, and that has a little arching arm that goes over the top. And then an isolette or an incubator. Both of those things are also names you might hear these called. So this top would come down and the baby has the entire inside space, and we can control the humidity and the temperature for even the smallest kids. All right, so we're going to start with some of the things that you may see in your baby, and your baby may or may not have some of these lines or tubes, but it's very overwhelming when we first see all of this stuff when we walk in. But we'll start up here. So this tube right here is called an endotracheal tube. It is a breathing tube. And this is what we use if a baby needs to be on a ventilator. And you might see that it's taped with a little piece of plastic bar called a neobar. It's taped to secure it so that it doesn't come out. This tube that goes in this baby's nose and is a feeding tube. It's called a nasogastric tube. Sometimes you may see that feeding tube in their mouth. There's a couple stickers that we have on this baby that are not invasive. These 3 stickers right here are the cardiac leads, and this is what we use to watch their heart rate, and sometimes their breathing rate also will show up on our monitor here. This baby also has a sticker right here that's called a temperature probe, and this temperature probe measures the baby's temperature so that it talks to the bed, and it actually keeps the baby's temperature within a certain range, and so we call that servo controlled temperature mode. So this temperature thermometer is taped to the baby's skin, measuring the baby's temperature. We'll move on down a little bit. There's 2 lines here that we see in the umbilical cord. So these lines here are going to be our umbilical arterial catheter and our umbilical venous catheter. Sometimes they may have 2 hubs for fluids, and sometimes they may have 1 hub for fluids. The umbilical arterial catheter, you may hear it called a UAC, is primarily used so that we can draw labs from that, but we can also watch our blood pressure through this line. Our UVC, or umbilical venous catheter, is primarily used for fluids, medications. We don't usually draw labs from that, but we give fluids, medications, sometimes blood transfusions if we need to. So these lines you may see if your baby is needing a high level of support. And then we'll move on down. We have a pulse ox on our baby's foot being held in place. But the pulse ox kind of looks like a little band-aid with a white cord coming off. And these come in many different types, but this is measuring the baby's oxygen level. All of these things will show up on the monitor. Again, monitors look different. This one is a mock-up of what it would look like, but it would show up on the monitor at the baby's bedside.
So going into the NICU, knowing nothing about it is really terrifying at first when you walk in and you see this tiny little human that you've been so excited to meet hooked up to all of these different machines and breathing support, and there's wires and there's tubes everywhere, and you don't know what any of it is, especially just having given birth. Your hormones are all over the place. you'd never imagine being in this position.
As a new pediatric resident, I walked into my first day of my NICU rotation terrified. I had been warned that it was going to be a hard month. Those babies are so tiny, there's so much equipment in there, and they all speak a different language. This was all true, but I approached my experience through a much different lens than many people. I was there as a student, not as a parent. And as terrified as I was, I didn't even have a baby of my own in there. How much scarier would it have been if my child was the one in the incubator, with all of the tubes and the beeps and the constantly changing numbers to watch? Well, nothing can take away the fear of having your baby in the NICU, but hopefully this video can help ease a little bit of that fear by explaining some of the things that you might see and that may go unmentioned by the staff and providers because, well, they are everyday items to us. And as always, if you have questions about your baby's care, always remember you can talk to your baby's neonatologist or healthcare team. And don't be afraid to ask questions. And last, don't forget to check us out on social media at Lil U Life. We'll see you next time.